Regular day to day. Just kind of depends. So let's go last week. No holidays or anything. I worked 74 hours maybe, I want to say. So I still do stagiaires or stages in my restaurant when I do have new hires. Easiest way to kind of explain that, it's an old French term to stage things in a way so you can cook meals. So I'll always give them often salmon or tuna. Okay, give me 2 dishes. Here's your protein. Get it ready for me in half an hour. No pressure. And I'll say that specifically in front of them, no pressure, so I can see how they perform.
The Culinary Libertarian Podcast, episode 47.
Welcome to the Culinary Libertarian Podcast, where the philosophy is free, but the food is on you.
Hello, folks. Dan Reed here, the Culinary Libertarian. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy to have you here. Happy to be here. A few things first. Click over to my podcasts page, culinarylibertarian.com/podcasts, and from there you can follow me on Twitter or Minds or Gab, or join me in my Eating Liberty Facebook group. I post in there items of note about food policy or gardening, or just fun things about recipes and breads that we're making, and some things that we're trying, and you can post there too. From that same podcast page, you can also support the show with a donation through Patreon, PayPal, or Bitcoin, as well as make a purchase from my coffee mug store, Cranky Without Coffee, because aren't we all? I have a variety of coffee mug designs from sassy to cute, and the show's logo mug is also available. While you're listening to the show, click over to that podcatcher's review page and leave me a 5-star review and also a positive comment. Those engagements move the shows up in the various podcatchers and show it to more people so more people can start listening. While you're in there, also subscribe so you get updates each week in your podcatcher. And while you're out there in the social medias interwebs, share the episodes with your friends on that social media. I post all the episodes on those various social media links that I have, and you can follow me there and share them with your friends, because they want to know too. Last thing to do on that podcast's page is pick up my copy of Foolproof Muffins, recipes that work every time. It's a free e-cookbook. Just leave me your email address, and then you can download the book, and once or twice a week, I'll send you an email about what's going on. Folks, the school year is coming soon enough, and it's not too late to start homeschooling. If you've had enough of the state schools, look into the Ron Paul homeschooling curriculum with my affiliate link, culinarylibertarian.com/homeschool. The curriculum is self-taught, and that means less stress on the parents. The Ron Paul curriculum is pro-free enterprise and pro-business, which means students learn to start their own business, learn about money, and they write every day. Tom Woods, Ph.D., has created over 400 videos about history and government. Click over and read the testimonials, such as this parent who writes, quote, "She is more focused and determined than I could have imagined. I love to see how proud she is of herself." End quote. Help your kids succeed while you free up running around time. Click over to culinarylibertarian.com/homeschool to get started taking back your sanity. culinarylibertarian.com/homeschool. My guest today is KC Gonzalez. KC has been working in kitchens for 18 years and currently holds the title of Executive Chef. KC was born and raised in the Philippines, and he came to the U.S. in 1997 and found his passion for food and the food business. He is currently the host of his own podcast, Chef Salty Pork, where he shares kitchen knowledge and kitchen know-how with anyone willing to learn the business. In between chefing and podcasting, Casey is also in the band Sunday Brave, which plays covers of some good old classic rock and roll. His cuisine revolves around Asian-inspired foods and flavors, and he enjoys integrating those into his special. He also loves pork. Welcome, Casey. Thank you for joining me today on the Culinary Libertarian Podcast.
Hey, this is a treat.
Well, I'm glad you think so. All right, so we're going to talk. We'll talk chefing today, but also not just the food part. There's other parts of chefing that are, I think, less obvious to people who are thinking that all chefs do is cook food.
Yeah.
That's by the time you become a chef, the last thing you're doing is cooking food,
Yeah.
and that's like, wait a minute, doesn't make any sense. So we're going to cover some of that. But before we get there, let's just do a little bit of your background, how you got into this, what you're doing now, and your current position.
Got it. So right before I got into cooking, I was actually a contractor. So I did general contracting for, I want to say like 8 or 9 years. And at the time, I think I was doing both part-time. So I was doing contracting in the day. And then on the weekends, I'd be the cook at night. So no matter what gig it was, at the time, I think when I was 18, 19, right when I was starting off, I was already in the kitchen by then, part-time in the weekend as a dishwasher. And then I would work, I don't know, 3 or 4 shifts per week. And then I'd be the contractor during the day, Monday to Thursday, or sometimes on Friday. I didn't work the weekend. And then only after college, I want to say 23, 24, I had an epiphany to myself. And I said, what am I doing in college? I'm not studying to be anything else. I wanted to be a cook. I'm wasting my time. So I went ahead and finished just 2 years of college. And then I went back home and then just kind of applied to all the spots that I could, with the experience that I had. It was really minimal too, for kitchens. And then from there, I worked the line, etc. And it's been just about 18 years now.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Although contractor is an interesting transition. I don't know that that's too often the case, but I do know that, just as an interesting aside, Jacques Torres, the Mr. Chocolate, when he was opening his first shop, and maybe only shop, in Brooklyn, having spent many, many years using an icing spatula and looking at what the work is that a drywaller does, says,
Yeah,
I can do that.
Sure, yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. So he really just dove in, and they sort of built that factory all by themselves, which is an interesting thing. And there are some, in probably most any job of physical labor and using your intellect, somehow some of those skills will translate into the cooking world one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Chefing is kind of a funny thing. No one who doesn't operate on people will say, I'm a surgeon.
Yeah.
Nobody who doesn't plumb houses or wire houses would identify as a plumber or an electrician, but cook fish just great, and well, you're a chef. So, well, okay. So it's not to say that cooking a fish dish is a trite thing. Cooking food well is fine, but I find myself a little bit irked by the ease with which people will assume that title, and that might just be my own personal baggage. I'm less bothered by it now. I just sort of smile at them. Yeah. I think they don't really know what they're talking about. What has been your experience on the hiring side? So let's kind of take this 2 parts backward first. What does it mean to you to be a chef?
Ooh.
And then as the person, so your position, you're executive chef,
I am
right?
executive chef.
So as the person in charge of hiring, with your idea of what it means to be a chef, talking to this young person across from you, What discord do you find?
I think there's two houses, right? And I've mentioned this to you quite a few times already when we've spoken to the podcast. My view of a chef is someone who has already traveled, well spoken, can cook every damn dish, can pick out like every notes, every nuance on a dish that it has, without being too obnoxious, but still knowing what the hell it's in it. That to me is chef, and no matter what cuisine it is. So it can be, and like yourself, you've done the pastry side as well. I haven't gone that route yet. That's why I don't even get bothered to call. I don't have my cook call me chef. I think it's the most annoying thing. I think it's just stupid, and it pisses me off. So I just have them call me KC, and it's fine. Don't call me chef because I don't feel like I have that experience yet. I don't feel like I lived long enough to have that title. So that's my definition of chef. For me, it's the most. He is the most, or she is the most amazing person in the kitchen. Can work the line, can do everything at the moment's notice, knows everything. The ideal in my head what a chef is. But in terms of hiring, though, nowadays, and it falls into two categories. Um, if you are over 30, or if you are under 30. So meaning all the people that I have the pleasure of working with are all vets, meaning they have more experience. I mean, they have more kitchen experience than I am alive, and I call them chefs, even though I'm technically the exec above them. Does just the sheer experience alone for what they can give gives merit to their work ethic, and yeah, that's one of them. And then two, the younger generation, which is the under 30, and what I call the there's like no words to describe them because there's so many of them, and you'll often get the worked 10 years, worked 5 or 6 or 7, but then you start seeing the actual experience that they have. And I'm not trying to say that these companies or these employers are any worse than mine is, but I'm looking for a certain set of skills. So if I said to this person, like, hey, can you give me a brunoise on those carrots and those onions, and if they look at me all funny, then it's something different because they've had training in McDonald's or Burger King or IHOP. That's the experience that I'm mostly getting the lot of resumes nowadays, and it's really tough to find really good cooks nowadays because nobody wants to be a cook. Everybody wants to do something else. Nobody wants to do the effort and the time to what we've done for so long and put the time and effort to. So it's such a hard teeter that you're kind of trying to balance.
It's funny, and you're not wrong about that. But the thing that's funny, curious, not funny, haha, is that's probably an age-old problem for anybody. Yeah. So probably like the contractor or the journeyman electrician or plumber, or I would hope less so for the surgeon. but there's a gumption and a drive, which can be a useful thing. And that's, you want to see in especially in the crafts, driving a desk. I don't know where gumption comes in, but in the things that require an intellect and a skill in the hands, having a person engage in wanting to excel beyond his or her own skills is kind of a thing you look for. It's like, well, this is really cool. So this is a person who probably can be taught. Versus, I don't think that everyone's like this, but I think the vast majority, well, let's clarify the point. You and I are probably in a variety of chef groups on different Facebook things, and there seems to be at least two things there. There are the people who are asking legitimate, hey, you know what? I'm stuck here. I need some help. Here's my question. Yeah. Looking for genuine information versus the kids who, hey, look, I just planted these tater tots. Rate my plates. No, I'm not going to do that. So there's the people who want to be chefs without any recognition of what it takes to get there, thinking that the title alone, by saying the word, I breathe you into existence, Well, sorry, that's just not how that's going to go. And and that's, I remember as a kid, I wanted more than I was able to do, but I wanted it as opposed to just demanding call me this, like, and to go away.
Oh yeah.
So I think that there's an interesting point there. Possibly the thing that's changing is fewer and fewer people are coming to the door with that drive to spend what ends up being many years of grueling toil to get to the point of competence to run the fish station. I mean, not every now that's that. So running the fish station is sort of an inside vernacular for what a kitchen would look like. Some small restaurant kitchens are going to have this is called the brigade, where each station, each thing. So the grill has one or two cooks. There's a station just for vegetables. There's a station just for fish, and not every restaurant can have that. But the concept is that we're going to divide some of the work labor and make the dishes go out the kitchen faster. So that's anyway. So, but still, to go through the process of learning how to saute a piece of fish the correct way, or saute a veal cutlet or a chicken breast, or roast a leg of lamb. All of these things are different, and people just, well, I did it once. Isn't that enough? Sorry. No, it's not. So, since you are not the owner, you probably don't work the full-time job of chef and owner, which is a bigger bite. But as the executive chef, what does your day look like? When do you go in? When do you come home on a regular, not holiday week?
Gotcha. But a quick point to you though, and I don't even mind the lack of experience, but if anything, if your listeners all do want to become a chef per se, learn poissonnier, learn how to cut, learn how to do the things that you have to do with your knife first. That is the most important skill that you can learn in the kitchen. I cannot teach you that. I don't want to teach you that because I don't have the time to teach you that in my kitchen. I can teach you how to cook. I can teach you how to be better at it, but I cannot teach you the skills before that. So that's like a slight tangent to before your question. But my regular day to day just kind of depends. So let's go last week. No holidays or anything. I worked. Good God, it was 74 hours maybe, I want to say.
Oh, part-time week.
Yeah, part-time week. It wasn't bad. And let's see, I was off. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I was off Wednesday, Thursday last week. So Monday, no, I'm sorry. Let's start with Sunday, because Sunday is essentially what the day starts. Sunday is where inventory happens, at least for our corporate. And even if it was my establishment altogether, I would do inventories on Sunday. Inventory starts on Sunday. I would count every item in the building come 7 a.m. And then by around 8:30, 9 o'clock, I would set up the dish station, because I don't have a dishwasher Monday or Sunday because I don't have the labor for it. And get that set up in about half an hour. Another 20 minutes or so, I would be in the computer, just putting in all the orders for the morning. So it comes Tuesday. So the way our corporate works, everything is like sectioned off on different days when it comes in. Our big protein orders are Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And those are 2 days before. So if I needed something to come, let's say, I don't know, Tuesday, I would have had to order it Sunday for fish. So my inventory runs on my main proteins are 3-day shelf life on protein. So it's really tough to kind of keep the cost all together because it's all fresh. It's all fresh fish. All the produce gets ordered daily. And we have, all the local ones that here, the purveyors that we order from. Dairy are all kind of, it just depends which one it is. But Cisco's like the biggest house that you can order from. No matter where you are, they're the largest. So a lot of our business go on to there to get some of the dairy, some of the spec items. Because I don't know if you knew, Cisco would find a company house for you to make the spec of your sauce. So let's say, I don't know, you have a special spec for tartar sauce or cocktail sauce. You'd get that spec. They'd see if there's a provider in their list that can give you said spec, and then they will divvy out that amount of work to them, and then they'll just keep it in house. That's because that's all what Cisco is. Is just a big. It's like an Amazon. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, that's new to me. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah. So they're just a huge. They're just a huge house that just keep you in spec in the house, or maybe there's another place somewhere that has a similar spec, and if that passes, you can kind of use it, whatever, etc. And then Tuesday is fun, or rather, I should say, let's go to Monday. Monday, I will do the final numbers of the inventory, meaning I get to post it. On a typical week, we would make, I think last week. Hold on, let me pull up my phone because I have it on my phone also. 89. We did 89,000 last week.
In sales.
Not gross. Yeah, that was sales. Gross would be 112 without taxes. So 112 gross, 89,000 keep for the bottom line, and we churn quite a bit at the restaurant. But the final of the numbers come Monday by 3 p.m. I need to have it submitted to corporate, and then we have like a weekly or monthly budget that we have to hit. So a good percentage would be 34%, but I don't want to get into that too much because it gets a little, over your head. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are crucial days. Tuesday, I do the new specials that gets launched on Thursday. So meaning last week we started with wild salmon. So Tuesday I get to play with, okay, we get wild salmon for this week. How are we going to prepare it? We're going to outsource the items. How are we going to order around it? How much of the protein we're going to keep in house? All the logistics to come for Thursday. Wednesday is a free day. There's nothing happening. So usually we detail the hell out of the kitchen. Thursday is much the same as Tuesday because I need to get ready for the weekend. So all the orders that happen on Thursday need to go, like you need to think of 3 business cycles on Thursday's order because we got to keep it all the way till Sunday. So it's a weird swing. But anyway, the days range from 10 to 14 hours daily, pretty much. So that's kind of like a normal week. It's not too crazy, and like I said, like a part-time.
Right. Then, so you got all that done, and then now say you throw in a New Year's or a Valentine's or Easter or Mother's Day.
Oh.
Then just for the week from 74 hours, then how much does it jump?
Yeah, it jumps to like 100. So do you I've shared with Dan, I have this photo on my phone, and I'm gonna send it to you so your guys can view it if you ever post it on your blog post. But I messed. It was Mother's Day last year, and we were all just kind of hectic, and I was on fumes. I was running on fumes. I think it wasn't even Mother's Day. It was 2 days before, and I was already clocking in at 100 hours. I was exhausted. I hate using that word. I don't like saying it, but for the purpose of this example, it's not a healthy thing. But I forgot because I was drying ramekins in the oven. It's a normal thing. You kind of do it on cool, so there's no hot air coming out. It's just cold air kind of blasting. It makes the expediting of the drying of the ramekins a little faster. I inputted it there for like 2 minutes, not even. I turned around. One of my cooks came in, just turned on the oven. I didn't realize it. He has a habit, and it's a good habit. But I was using the oven specifically just to dry these ramekins quickly. And if you're ever in the kitchen, there's these green trays that are few and far in between for everywhere else. It's a cooling tray that you put your food in, so it goes into a rack into your walk-in so you can cool properly. I have like 30 of those in the kitchen. That's where the ramekins reside, and I placed it into the oven. I then turn around, and I'm like, why does it sound like the oven's on? He's like, oh, I turned it on. I'm like, no way. There is no way he just did that. Now, granted, I didn't tell him. That's my fault. But I turned around, lo and behold, the plastic had now melted into the oven racks inside, and the sheer horror of my face because now I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna give this to my dishwasher to clean because that's just mean. So I didn't have ramekins for that day.
And the
And
lovely
that's what
smell of burning plastic.
yeah, that's what 100 hours does to your brain, kind of.
Yeah.
It hurts, and it's not a healthy thing, but that's what we do on big major holidays like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and also for just for monetary issues, kind of to explain the big swing, Mother's Day we'll do $40,000 Mother's Day alone,
That's half of your week.
half of my week, just on that one day. So yeah,
It's a lot of business.
it's a lot of business. It's a lot of business.
You and I have had some conversations, both on your podcast and just talking, and so I know, and we've already mentioned some of this classic kitchen training idea. And for people who don't know what that is, part of that, I mean, I've mentioned also the brigade. We've already talked about very long hours. In the old, now for good or for bad, the old French model of the brigade and the apprentice system came with a lot of hours, a lot of verbal abuse, very little positive feedback, and a good bit of ridicule. So it was far from a perfect system, but in that system, we got the likes of Paul Bocuse and Fred Desjardins, Michael Gerard, Roger Verger, Joël Robuchon, Daniel Ballou, and a whole slew of others. So there, while the methods can be faulted, and there's a lot to fault about that, there was the ability to produce some, to this day, names we recognize as icons in the food business. So now we look to whether or not you like him, Marco Pierre White or Gordon Ramsay. They've also had experience in that kind of a system. And granted, Fox has its own over-the-topness, but there's some application of that still for TV, but they have another job, and that's to get people to watch. So let's say cooking is like baseball or basketball. Speaking for myself, I am not, nor would I ever be, a Jerry West. But could Jerry West or even a Magic Johnson cut it in today's NBA? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know either.
In your kitchen, when cooks are coming looking for a job, what's their pedigree? Which is what we talked about this a little bit, but I want to pursue this a little bit more. What is the difference really in the cook now versus the cook, say, 20 or 30 years ago? Is there something that you can say, this is the thing?
There's a clear difference. So I still do stagiaires or stages in my restaurant when I do have new hires.
Okay, explain what that is, please.
Yeah, it's just a fancy word meaning just for them to cook so I can see it. That's the easiest way to kind of explain that. It's an old French term to stage things in a way so you can cook the set meal. So I'll always give them often salmon or tuna, and just I'll have them at the pantry. I'm like, hey, give me 2 dishes. Here's your protein. Have at my pantry. Get it ready for me in half an hour. No pressure, and I'll say that specifically in front of them. No pressure, so I can see how they perform. I'll often invite the hirer or the hirees on a Friday because that's like the softer night. It's not as busy, but during the busier lunch shift, so between 3 to 5 p.m. where we're kind of popping, not sorta, but you will feel the adrenaline kind of kicking in, and I'll put them right into the line. It's like, hey, okay, these are your 2 dishes. Go ahead, you have 30 minutes, go, and I'll be right there in front of the line, just kind of watching my staff still running the show, but keeping a keen eye on what they're doing, monitoring their knife skills, see if they actually know what's up. And I'll give them a whole fish, by the way, so I can see if they know how to cut it down, break it down, what they do with the scraps. Because I often save a lot of stuff because I don't like throwing away things. So a lot of the bones, and like I said, poissonnier is one of the best stations and the best skill that you can have in the kitchen because it gives you the absolute handle on your knife skills because it just teaches you everything. And then once the half hour is complete, they would then present it, and then I can actually see it if they plated it correctly. Did they bother to clean the plate? Is the plate underneath clean? And that's like the most thing too. A lot of people look at that when they present it, because sometimes there's all a bunch of crap underneath. They don't even pretend to wipe it, or the plate is dirty, etc. Not putting any stupid garde manger on top that you cannot eat. That's my pet peeve of all time. If you cannot eat it, it should not be in a plate. I don't care how beautiful it is. I don't care how pretty it is. If I can't consume it, why would I give that to my guests? It would just be a choking hazard. And the clear difference is, to answer your question, people that are in the 20 to 30 bracket, like 28, 30 years old, do not know any of the skills, or it's severely lacking thereof, or they're just fresh out of high school, or just kind of right into college, have some kind of experience on a fast food chain, etc. Don't understand the actual the pressures of the kitchen. That's why I put them on a Friday night to see if they know how to move. If they say the correct things behind my staff, like the word behind, that's a crucial thing. I don't know if you've ever gone over that with your listeners. In the kitchen, oftentimes you would say behind when you're passing with hot or sharp things behind your compadre, so they don't turn around and get scalded or get cut by a knife. You would say behind.
Or even if you have nothing, they may have
Or
something.
even if you have nothing, you just say behind. That way you don't bump into people and just cause an accident. And my second pet peeve on my arm, actually, and it happened quite a few times, and I've fired 3 people for it. They've opened the oven without telling me, and then, or without saying behind, or the oven's open, or it's some kind of whatever, just to tap me and everything, and then I turn around and burn my arm. And I actually have 3 scars on my arms where it just kind of seared the meat per se. Oh, it's rough. So I've gotten rid of them, quite a few of those people. I don't care if they had crazy good experience either. I'm like, nope, you're gone. You're just a hazard. You're not with the team. I don't care how busy you get. The safety of everybody else is important, more important than what your plate is right now, and even more so for me, because I'm running the kitchen. And how dare you burn me? But then there's the I call the 40 to 50 bracket, which is my favorite, and these are the people that have been at it. And I don't care if you've worked for any kind of kitchens, or how little experience it is. You've put in the time, and you know the pressure. There's a photo I'm gonna send to you a little later too, and it's a SpongeBob kind of a meme per se. It says on the top, during rush hour, SpongeBob on a fire, running around hectic, and then underneath, longtime employee with like a house on his back, he's burning, and he's like regular shift on a Saturday experience. So that's like the meme right there, and that's what I attune the 50 to the 40 to 50 year olds that have put in the time and effort, and know the business, and know the pressure. And I strive for those people, but they're so few and far in between. They don't want to leave where they're working because pension and insurance and all the good perks that you would if you'd stayed and you're a tenure in that restaurant.
Right.
But man, I jump for joy if I find somebody with that pedigree, because 1, I can hone it. 2, I know the experience. I don't have to worry about it. 3, they have the knife skills. If I haven't drilled that point across any further, please have knife skills. That's like my one. That's like my one thing in my kitchen. Know how to cut stuff. I don't want to have to tell you. Just know how to use the knife. So those are the 2 brackets that I call in my kitchen. In hiring perspectives, kind of give you an insight on them.
Right. And so there's a couple of things. One, we started this conversation with the question, what does it mean to be a chef?
Mm-hmm.
And I made the joke that the last thing you're going to do is cook. And so giving these young cooks a fish to break down, well, part of being a chef is butcher skills. And that's now, once you have a four-legged animal, whether it's a cow, a deer, a goat, a sheep, whatever, that's pretty much all put together the same way. And and once you know where the muscles are and how to separate the muscles and get the good ones from the bad ones, which means the tender ones from the stew ones, well, then that's just going and doing. Cutting round fish, salmon, trout, it's all mostly the same. If you get a tile fish, you're going to get some bones in there as like cutting steel, but that's just a function of the fish. That doesn't change the fish. So knowing how to cut a fish, how to clean meat, so from the chef's standpoint, that's critical to know, because those are the two things of all the ingredients you're going to buy. That's where the most amount of your money is. And if you can't serve that meat on the plate and get the premium price for it, well, fine. If you can save your tenderloin scraps and turn them into some sort of a sauce, okay, great. It tastes better, but you didn't get your money out of that. Casey, let me take a minute to tell the listeners about De Bruno Brothers cheeses. De Bruno Brothers is a Philly-based cheese and specialty food store which has a wide selection of Italian cheeses and cured meats, oils and vinegars, and snacks, including the black lava peanuts and cashews. De Bruno Brothers has gift sets, pre-packaged sliced meats and cheeses for antipasta platters, as well as a cheese pairing club. Click over to their main page, culinarilibertarian.com/cheese, to see their full selection of cheeses, cured meats, specialty foods, and gifts. When you're planning your next big get-together and want the spirit of brotherly love, think De Bruno Brothers and click culinarilibertarian.com/cheese. That's culinarilibertarian.com/cheese. Now, let's get back to the show. So that's one of the skills that a chef needs to have. So the other skills chefs need to have is the communication skills.
Oh my God!
To say behind you, to say the oven is open, to say that pan there is hot, because it's not just you anymore. And you made the point, as the person running the kitchen, part of your responsibility as the chef is to make sure that the customer is getting the best food that the kitchen can produce. But if the chef is not paying attention to how the cooks are communicating and putting the other cook's safety in jeopardy, well, now you've got a cook who might be out for 3 or 4 days because of a serious injury. You've compromised the quality of service for the customer, who may not come back because I'm going to give this place a shot. Well, man, that was the worst meal ever. I'm not going back there. So all of these things become like, well, those are remote possibilities. Yes, that's true. It is a remote possibility, but all it has to happen is one time, and bad things come. So the chef's responsibility becomes really a lot more than I think a lot of people recognize, and that's not cooking stuff.
Yeah. Not a lot of people get it too, because they don't show you on TV. What you see on TV is so wrong. It's only half of the equation. That's not enough of it. That's just the face of it, kind of. And even so, I want to say that's a quarter of what you see in actual kitchens, especially if you are the chef and the owner. Because one, you got to do payroll, you got to pay the bills, you got to pay your staff. That alone is such a tall task.
It is, and
I have 60 an employee. I have a lot of people.
So you've given me a perfect springboard. So on those Facebook groups I mentioned a few minutes ago, you probably read the same idiotic question that I read. I'm going to go get. let me be specific about which idiotic question. I'm going to go get a job in this town. What rate should I expect? And I can't even respond anymore. So without getting into the weeds of all of this, I want to talk a little bit more. Well, I want to talk a bit more. Well, I don't want to put you in a spot with your particular business, because that's not really fair. But I also let's just recognize that wage is the value you bring to the business. That's all that it is. You're being paid. Wage is just a payment for labor. Now, there are plenty of people who are going to balk at that, and that's okay. Send me an email. I'll clarify it for you. But so this young cook who you have on a Friday night does these 2 dishes, and he's seasoned them well. They look pretty decent. The bottom of the bowl isn't messy because that means he's cleaned up his station as he goes, and there isn't a whole lot of waste, and he did a pretty good job trimming the fish. And all in all, this is a good job. So this young person comes on as a cook, and he gets paid the X dollars an hour of wage. How does any cook become more valuable to you? And therefore you say to the owner, you know what? John is really doing a good job. And I can demonstrate that John's doing a good job because he's adding value to the business. This is how now we need to reward that with a higher rate. So how either generically or specifically, how does a cook become more valuable to the boss and earn a higher rate?
I can give you a specific, and it's the one example that everybody craves to have. And the perfect example right now is my dishwasher. I won't name him, so that will become anonymous. But just to give you the example of what he brings to the table, always comes early, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Has his own thing, has a good time. Always converses with me, make sure I'm okay, make sure he's okay. Asks what I need to have done or anything specific. This is before his shift. He doesn't even clock in yet, and he's interested in what needs to be done. So that's just it tells you what his attitude is. And then once he does clock in, he'll bang those out. And then my favorite of all time, and I've bumped his raise already because for the one true factor that he brings to the table. Chef, is there anything else you need done? Those are the most beautiful words I could ever hear from anyone else. Because one, people will always try, and when I say people, all the staff will just always try to just put their heads down, keep on doing their 7-hour, 8-hour shift without having to do anything else more than what they're doing. But this guy took the time to do what I needed and then some, and then ask for more because he completed it. If you can bring that to the table, that is your success in the kitchen. Because then I put him, he's now on the fry station, and fry station is nothing to bark at. It has the most prep in my entire restaurant. All prep goes into that station. All my garde manger people will go to that station because the back prep is also where the fry station is at. So they always converse what's needed. So he sees all the prep, and for him to take on that and know all the cooking stuff with it. Granted, frying food doesn't take much, but there's such a fine technique on getting just the perfect calamari, and this guy nails it every time. And the apps will fly first, understanding tickets. So I oftentimes in my kitchen, if they don't have too much experience, I'll throw them in a fry station so I can see their work ethic, to see if they can follow spec. Everything is weighed and labeled in a fry station, and all the stations, but more so in that particular side of the kitchen, because one, they have to label it. Two, there needs to be like stickers and kill dates. So since everything is fresh, everything has a 3-day portion life. So meaning if they portioned it Monday, by Wednesday, end of day, that portion fish or whatever it is needs to get thrown out, because that's the allotted time that we have for corporate standards. Granted, obviously you don't want to just throw away good fish. You want to keep checking it, and that's my job. But in a generalized rule, 3-day shelf life is what we go for. So the guy just keeps asking for more stuff after I've told him what to do. And man, and you can attest to this. Have you ever had a cook say that to you? And don't you just feel so overjoyed? You're like, wow, you know what? Let me teach you something new. And that's when my brain starts to go. This guy really wants to get at it. He wants to put the time and effort. Let me teach him something else. So then I start moving him into the oven station, which is right next to the fry station. Start teaching him all how to do the prep. And my best, I have one poissonnier on Fridays to cut like the majority of the fish for the weekends, and he's there. So I've started putting him next to him so he can kind of learn how to do the cutting of the fish. And that's like my favorite station, just cutting up the fish, and there's tons of it that comes through. And the man's name is Eric. I don't mind telling you guys that. I love that guy. He's been with us for 14 years, since day one, since the restaurant opened. And I've only been in this restaurant for 8 years, so I've known him for 8 years. The man can churn out fish. Oh my gosh. And it's so perfect too. Perfectly portioned. If I want 8 ounces or 10 ounces on the cut, nice and neat. Nothing bleeding. All the bones are out. The carcasses look so nice. So yeah, that is the one thing that I can tell your listeners, to have the drive and to say to whoever your supervisor is, hey, I've done what you asked. Give me something else. That is the most golden things, for my ears to hear.
As you mentioned it, asked me the question, I was thinking of one guy in particular many, many years ago at the Ritz-Carlton Naples who would ask the question, but he'd rock back and forth on his feet. Just so he was always moving. So when it was time to move and go get something, he would shoot off and go get it because he was always ready to go. It was like the coach tells you in football, never stop moving your feet just in case you need to go left or right. Well, this guy was ready, man. It was, it was a lot of fun working with him because it was always got to the point where he was pushing us to be better because he's like, my gosh, he keeps taking my work. Now what do I have to do? So it's fun when it happens.
And those are the funnest employees. Yeah. Those are the best employees that you can ever ask for. And I have 3 of them.
Wow, you're a lucky guy.
Yeah, I know. It's so good. I have 3 out of 10 on the weekends. Or three of the employees that always ask for stuff. 10 total employees on the line during Friday and Saturday. And 3 of them are with me all the time. So it's such a treat.
Awesome.
Oh my
very,
gosh.
very cool. So I want to ask a little bit about, because we were talking a little bit here about pay, and you mentioned your receipts for the week, and so I have this idea that the vast majority of people who aren't in the restaurant business, well, actually, in any business at all, may not really understand the expenses of any other business. So I really don't understand what the expenses are involved in being a contractor or a plumber or an electrician or a surgeon, although as the surgeon, you really don't, I mean, the hospital bears those burdens, but the point is that I don't really know what that costs, and hospital is a bad example because there's lots of other things involved in that. But so if you're running a taco truck, well, I mean, what's your nut on the truck alone, then all the other things. So if you just give a basic percentage breakdown. So you have let's say $90,000 for the week, and from that $90,000, because taxes have been paid, you now owe labor, food, rent or mortgage, utilities. Then you've got to pay for the dishwashing company and the soap and the linens and the soda guy and the beer guy. We may just call that all into like a bar cost. So once all of these things are done, you've got $90,000 is 100% of money to spend. All of the expenses are gone just average it out. What on an average week after expenses are paid, what percentage of that 100% is left for actual profit?
Got you. So I think the term that you're looking for is the P&L, profits and loss. So this is the bread and butter of what I do. And this is primarily 90% of what I do in a restaurant. And I can give you a month over it because I think it would benefit if your listeners kind of understand how that goes. So this is what I mean by the TV shows don't give you the full background of what's happening in the kitchen as a chef owner, or just the exec, because he's paying quite a bit of it. I have the opportunity of being like just about 90% of my restaurant is going through me. The only thing the corporate is handling is the bills of the actual restaurant, meaning the electricity, the water, and maintaining the name. And then 3, their actual like produce going in, because we get specific fish that only gets sourced from my company. So that's like the bulk of it. But everything else I pretty much handle with my general manager. So in a monthly basis, let's see if I can break it down to you. There are three COGS. So COGS, costs of goods sold. That's what the what we call it all the time, and profits and loss. So there's food COGS, there's beer COGS, and then there's everything else. So it's in threes. So it's in thirds pretty much. And it just depends what restaurant you are in or whatever, how that attenuates to whatever it gets divvied out to. But food is 90% of the business. Wine and liquor are 10%, and then like a small 1% is like your main inventory. Excuse me, that gets kept in house. So if I took it into a monthly basis, my total overhead for the restaurant to keep the lights on is $14,000. So that covers my bill, my monthly rent, my my water, my electricity. That's it. That's 14 grand right there. And then the total overhead of food that I order on a weekly basis, excluding holidays, like last week, I think we did $7,000 worth of food, and that's after the fact. So 7,000 is what I ordered for the entire week. Different days, obviously, but from Monday to Thursday, it's maybe, I don't know, a couple grand. From Thursday on is like 5 to 6 thousand just on protein inventory in the house. And I want to say another 2,000 for produce. So together, let's just generalize it, $10,000. So we have 14 grand for the building and electricity, 10 grand for all food. And then liquor and sales, those are a little weird because we keep a lot of it in house because you can't just buy one bottle of of a Corona or one bottle of a Bullet bourbon or something like that. It needs to be purchased in cases, so the bulk price attenuates and gets relieved on the cost, and the restaurant isn't paying for so much. But the liquor sales are just about 3 to 4 thousand the entire week. So if you think about it, to keep my restaurant going, let's give it a whole round figure of $30,000. That's what it keeps it running every week. It gives the overhead going, the food going, and the liquor. And then in terms of the people getting paid, I want to say we'll divvy out, I don't know, another 20 grand or so for the week. And that's how much my restaurant goes. If my numbers are correct, if my sales are to the T, my profits and loss, the bottom line, meaning the last line of that entire list, is what my gross is and what I take back after the fact. If that's all done correct, I should take $40,000 to my pocket. That's how much I make. But, and there's the big but. Did we have a shortage of cook? Meaning, did I have to give overtime hours? Did I run out of food? So thus making customers not want to go to my restaurant. Did I have excess amount of call outs front of the house? And that affects severely on the quality of everything when you don't have servers. It's the most annoying thing. Managers, are they clocking way too much, or rather they're getting too much overtime? Because I think there's allotted overtime for my restaurant for managerial staff. The only one that doesn't clock in are myself and the general manager. We both don't do it, but everybody else clocks in. And then the overall, I call the 1% that nobody really understands is the comps and the voids. Meaning, if somebody messed up on a cooking steak, or somebody dropped like 20 pieces of the wild salmon and it's a feature, or if somebody burned the freaking ramekins like I did the entire, that all gets caught up. That's all monetary. That's all value. And breaking plates. Oh my God, I forgot to tell you this. One of my old bartenders was pushing the cart instead of pulling the glass racks. Yep. $600 worth of china just out. And my heart broke. The China's the most important damn part of the kitchen. It's what keeps me going. It's all the plates and all the uh and I looked at her and I was like, nope, don't say anything. Nope, just
Yeah.
walk away. Just go away. Let me clean this up. Just go. Just
So it's not
yeah.
now. It's not $600 worth of plates. It's $1,200 worth of plates because you got to buy them again.
Yep. You gotta buy them again. Exactly. Gotta buy them again. And it wasn't even like the old plates. If it was the old plates, I wouldn't have been as half as mad. It was like the new. It's like the new square ones, the new rectangle ones. I
It's all the
have
pretty fun ones.
yeah, it's all the pretty ones, and it's such a premium. Good China is so expensive, and we keep them expensive because it needs to last in the dishwasher. That's why it's so expensive in China. You can't just buy the $1 piece of ceramic because it will disintegrate in the dishwasher. Oh, that was so heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. All that China just gone, broke. I was mad. So that's how my week is. So if I do that all correctly, out of the $90,000, 30,000 needs to be divvied out to everybody else, all the cogs per se, and then my bottom line should be $40,000 if everything should go well. But as everybody knows, and like I mentioned, the glasses that just broke, the fish that was expired or we had to throw away, or XYZ, all totals to that. So I'll tell you right now, what I bottom line last week was 22 grand instead of the 40.
Yeah, and that was my point because if you're telling me you're doing 40, it's a very, very high percentage, and I think some of the best restaurants,
doesn't happen
if
often.
they get 6%,
Yeah.
they're on Mecca. That's just amazing.
I know.
So
no, we don't do that.
and then and these are things that chefs would think about. So one of my own, this is a small one, but the example illustrates the point through lots of other ways. The bottom of the celery, the cooks will just chop off the bottom inch or inch and a half and throw it away. Well, it doesn't take very long for all of that to add up to an entire case of celery. So if you think about buying a case of celery, let's say a case of celery is $30. Well, this is just one piece. But at some point, you're buying a $30 case of celery to throw it into the dumpster. Well, it's not just celery now. Now it's, maybe you're peeling too much off of the onions. Well, it's just an onion, but it's not just an onion. How many bags of onions over the course of the years? Now we have a couple cases of celery, a couple of bags of onions. Let's say the cream. Let's say you're not putting the cream over the ledge, over the line to melt the butter, to make it hot, so you can pour out the very last of it. At some point, you're throwing away a case of cream, which is $45. Pretty soon, we've got a couple of $1,000 of cash in the garbage because we're not paying attention to things that don't look like they're money. And
not people, they don't look at it like that though. They look at it as food, but I look at it as 20 cents, 30 cents, $1.50, $1.15.
It all adds up.
$3.
If you think it doesn't add up, every time you go shopping, buy 2 packs of gum. And at the end of the year of shopping, how many packs of gum did you buy? Which is how much money did you spend on gum? Well, that's the same thing in reverse when you're throwing away food in a restaurant. As a kitchen, that's income. We paid for the thing, and you're throwing it in the garbage can. And well, I don't understand how does that work. So if you're throwing away 4 ounces of celery every time you're doing it, that means you have to go when you need 4 more ounces of celery to get some of the new one. And I know that that's not an easy point to illustrate, especially people who don't work in restaurants and don't necessarily see that. But these are some of the ways that expenses in the restaurant business add up a lot. And so speaking of expenses to restaurant business, I want to segue with the idea of expense and food and do this. So we've been talking, and most of what we're saying, we're talking about opinions. And that's really, so the fact of your business, that's fine, but I don't want you to give me details because that's not really my business. But these are opinions about what it takes to be a great chef. I think there's a common agreement among most of that. Now it's going to be a little bit less common agreement. and that is cooking schools. Cooking
Mm-hmm.
schools are, I think, still really, really popular. I think they're still going strong. And I taught cooking school. I taught at a culinary school in Tallahassee for a couple of years. So I
Mm.
understand that side of it. But I can tell you as an instructor, I saw some people who had no business, none, being in a cooking school. And the administration was almost derelict to take their money. It was
Yeah.
almost a violation of their rights to take money from them, selling them the idea that they can cook, because they couldn't. It was just a mistake. It was just wrong. So
Yeah.
let's say you're going to go to cooking school for 2 years. Well, 2 years of time is 2 years of time, whether you spend them at your restaurant or in a cooking school. The quality of information you obtain is in part due to how willing the student or employee is willing to absorb the information. And we've
Yeah.
already talked about that. So taking away the time commitment as making that just neutral, now there's the expense part. Colleges in general, and this is becoming kind of a talking point, are very expensive now.
Really expensive.
I don't think there is a reasonable way that a person coming out of even a second or third tier culinary school, and the top ones I think are prohibitively expensive. You come out of a culinary school owing anywhere from what, $40,000 to $80,000.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a whole lot of money to own for an education you
Mm-hmm.
could have gotten on YouTube and your local taco truck, or even
Yeah.
McDonald's, because at least McDonald's has heat and stainless steel and the pressure of service. We gotta go
Mm-hmm.
make those burgers. Let's move. So
Yeah.
there's at least something to be obtained from a McDonald's, if nothing else, than just like, wow, this is a very, very fast-paced world. There aren't any
Yeah.
knives at McDonald's, really. I mean, maybe one or two for the lettuce, but I don't even know if they do that anymore. But
No, I don't think
there's a lot
so.
of hot. There's a lot of ways to get hurt between hot and slippery floors and deep fryers, and there's a lot that can happen. It's very,
Yeah.
very chaotic, and if you don't like McDonald's, you sure aren't going to like working for Daniel Blue. It doesn't
Yeah.
get easier. So,
It doesn't.
in your opinion, and this is just KC saying, this is what I think, do you see the value, dollar to knowledge, of going to college?
Absolutely not. Nowadays, or even back then, or even if you okay, and I don't mind sharing this. And I've asked him, and he doesn't mind. One of my staff right now, he went through culinary school, and he felt as if that he was the bee's knees, because that's how you feel about it. After you got to college, you put in the time. He did a 4-year degree. He thought he was the bee's knees, but in his experience, and he often shares this too. He's like, I just wasted $65,000. I was like, why do you say that? He goes, all of this stuff that I learned in college. Yeah, one, it is cool. You get to be an experience. You get to be away somewhere to focus on that. But you can only take so much because you're not working in an actual restaurant. You're working for the school, and they're kind of teaching you how to go about it. So you don't understand the true pressure or the true the true the true business that needs to be done of said restaurant. And he goes, just by working here, and when he says here in my restaurant, everything that I learned in the 4 years, I learned in the 7 months that I've been here. And pertaining to him, I was like, well, that's just kind of cooking, that's what you're supposed to do. You're putting the time and effort to. But yeah, I see a merit to it, but I don't suggest it. I just go ahead, look it up on YouTube, or go ahead and go to your restaurant, go to your local restaurant, ask them if you can work. Be like, hey, I really want to do this. I really want to learn the business, and hopefully, the chef will be like, you know what? I see merit in you. Let me hire you. Let me put you through the paces. But that is such a small margin. I don't even do that unless I really know that you're gonna work for it. I'm not gonna take you on. So to answer your question briefly, No, I do not see any merit to go into culinary school. It's a waste of money, in my opinion. You can learn all. I can teach you all the skills in 6 months in my restaurant that you need to do in that schooling. But the only thing I can't teach you to do that the school does is managerial stuff, and that's where it kind of shines a little bit because they give you a little snippets of it while you're in school. It's like, hey, this is how you do front of the house stuff. How you set up a table, what a brigade means, etc. Like I'm not going to teach you that in my restaurant. I'm just expecting you to know that one station, what that dish is called, how that fish is prepared, what goes in it, what are the ingredients, how it needs to taste when it comes to the window. That's all I'm looking for. But in school, you get the chance to learn all of the extra finer details on those moments.
Well, and I think I mostly agree with you. And I'm not even convinced that a school is necessary for the administration side of it, because not everyone's going to want that, even though having a sense of throwing away the celery butt and not emptying the cream container completely. I mean, that's illustrative, and I can show that to anybody in 5 seconds. They're going to say, wow, on the 4 quarts of cream, I got an extra cup of cream? Holy smokes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sets the point. Done. Now we've already made the point. We're over here. You don't need school for that. For the technical stuff of learning how to run a P&L, well, in the aggregate, basically it's the same, but every business is going to have their own particularness. And of all of the cooks who get hired, very, very few are going to really need to know that level of stuff. So if you get to the point where you need to have it, well, someone will teach it to you. So it's not my story, but David Burke years ago, who is, I think, still the only American to have been awarded the French Master Chef title, the MOC, when he was a young man, he went to France and walked. I forgot whose kitchen it was, but he said, "I want to work here, but let me just come in and peel potatoes." Okay, whatever. And I'm not even sure that the okay was immediate, but I think he peeled the potatoes for a month for free at this French restaurant because he told them, "I'm committed to wanting to learn from you, and I'm going to show you that I have a level of commitment." So peeling potatoes for a month is a pretty boring thing to do, and it takes a fair amount of resolve. Well, I think you're going to have a hard time finding somebody who doesn't say that David Burke is an extraordinarily talented chef. Whether or not you like him or his food, that's just opinion. I don't care. I actually had dinner next to the guy a couple of times. I like David Burke, but he's a very, very talented chef. So that's the point is that the people who are going to do that, I'm here, I'm going to work here, I'll come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day until you hire me, I think that that's rare no matter what generation we're talking about. Yeah. But it does pay off if you can do it. So you've mentioned to me what it takes to get into your restaurant. Got to come in, do half an hour on the line, cook a couple of dishes, don't be messy, be clean, season well, cook well, and present yourself nicely. Aside from not communicating and opening the oven door and burning the chef, what is it? Let me ask you the other way. How does one stay on in your kitchen?
Showing up on time.
What does on time mean? So the schedule is at 3:00.
That is
what time is on time?
If I tell them 9:00 and they're not there 8:50, you're not on time. That is just how I run my clock. And if I say, or rather, the way I schedule, it's a little funny, I should say, because I don't. There's 2 crews. There's the morning crew and there's a night crew, and there's a little time in between when there's nobody in the restaurant, just me, because I don't have the labor or the capacity to have anybody on. So in those times, it's typically just myself and the sous chef, or myself or the kitchen manager, and we will run the kitchen ourselves. And it's not really that busy anyway on those couple hours. But it's more apparent in the morning crew than the night crew to show up on time. And nothing aggravates me more than, "Hey, chef, I'll be 5 minutes late." Really? Like, you couldn't leave 5 minutes earlier before, to get here on time? Because I have a set amount of work that needs to be done in a certain amount of time. And if you're not here when I need you, that will push me back on what I have to do, and then I have to kind of go about it and rewrite my schedule, and that's like 80% of what I do. Also, not just the numbers or not just how everything else kind of goes about, but yeah, it's a tall task to begin with.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I've lost your sound. All right, so we were talking. Did you think you finished up the process of how you stay on?
I believe so. Yeah, so you stay on by showing up on time. That is, at least for my kitchen. If you have, and they know it, I mark it down on their names. I have one employee that's always late, and I exclamated from I was like, "Hey, I'm taking an hour from your shift next week," and he looks at me with puppy dog eyes. I'm like, "Nope, I told you this. Show up on time. You show up late again, another hour gets docked, etc., etc." Now, is that ideal? No, but at least he will try to be there early or right on time when I need him to, and he's been doing it quite a while. He's been on time more so. So his hours have been on replenished. Let's just
Well,
say.
very good for him then. All right, so tell us what is the name of your restaurant in case there's somebody next door listening and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go meet this guy."
I would love to tell you, but I cannot.
Okay.
In terms of, however, what I can tell you though, and they can't tell me no to this, I am the only fish restaurant in the Garden State Mall in New Jersey.
So if you have any deductive skills at all,
Yes,
you can figure out where to go see KC.
absolutely. It's not
Very-
that hard. I'm the only fish
Well,
restaurant
that's fine.
there.
And certainly, I am not here to get you in any trouble with anybody. That's not the point of the show.
No, not at all.
Uh,
They don't mind promotion, but I can't technically.
no
tell
worries,
you,
no worries. That's fine. That's rules are rules. That's okay. I'm okay with that. So I know that you have a podcast. I don't know if you have a blog.
Yes.
So give us some of the places so people can find and follow you on social media.
Absolutely. So right now the podcast can be looked at or followed or etc. on Chef Salty Pork. Salty pork because I'm a salty person. Pork because I love pork. I live for the swine. I am a fanatic when it comes to pork products because I'm Filipino. I was raised in the Philippines and our cuisine revolves around the pig, and I just love the flavor of it. I've eaten it from head to toe. I think my favorite part is the jowl, the guanciales as they call it in
Oh, it's
Italian
very good.
cooking. There's just something about it. It's just like it feels like a different cut of meat from a different animal entirely. It's not from a pig. I can't explain it. It's just unless you've had it,
No, that's
there's no way of
an
me.
interesting observation. As I'm thinking about that bears a truth to it because it
Yeah,
doesn't have the. So if you're used to say like a pork butt or even a pork tenderloin or a pork loin, it doesn't have that texture to it, and it's much
Doesn't.
fattier. So it's got that to
Yeah.
it, but because maybe because of where it is, the muscle fibers are short no matter what because it's just not that big of a piece. But yeah, that's an interesting point.
It's
Pork
man,
from another world.
it's such a weird thing. Yeah, that's how my brain works. So just like a quick snippet, the way I see a plate is how much it cost them probably. And to give you a quick example, while we're kind of in closing, my favorite diner recently done have a special, do the early bird special, and it's everyone kind of knows that from any diners or if you've been in the East Coast or even in the West Coast, they might have it. Early bird specials are just like $5 or $6 or whatever. And I've spoken to the owner quite a few times, like, hey, not to like back down on your business model. I love your diner. I come here all the time, but you're giving me $5, and here's what the plate entails: it's 2 eggs. I always order it over easy because I love runny eggs. A piece of sausage, like the breakfast sausage, and some hash browns. That meal in itself should have cost $7 or $8 to make profit, but he's selling it for $5, so he's losing money. And I don't know if you've ever been to a Jersey diner or if you can recall, the coffee is free, so it just keeps pouring. So that's like another overhead. So I'm like, and I asked him, I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I know I'm losing money, but you're here and 100 of these people are here. And it gives them another excuse to be here on another day because I am giving this free meal. I was like, you know what? I salute you, but I wouldn't do that to my restaurant. I would at least make at least $1 out of it, at least 20%.
He's doing volume and margins.
Yeah. I see his play. I get it. I don't do it with my restaurant, but I absolutely understand it.
Well, if he's doing that for dinner and he's also upselling on the dessert or something else, he's somehow he's making the money.
Yeah. He knows the model. I don't know it, but for my deduction, because I don't know his business model. I don't know his bottom line. He gets a profit out of it, even though he is selling it at a free cost. But anyway, we digress. Again, Chef Salty Pork, you can find it on all the podcasts, on all the major platforms out there, on Anchor primarily. On Tuesdays now that I do it with my sous chef and I, we just kind of talk about our day, how it goes about in our business. On Thursdays, you've actually heard Dan. He's been on the episode there quite a few times, and there's some follow-up episodes on there that I'm not gonna spoil because they're they're so good, and some special tidbits happening soon. Dan, I'm pretty sure will let you guys know what's going to be happening, at least on my end, because I've asked him for some help on some endeavors. And the most important pertinent part is patreon.com/porkandwine, and I'll send that to Dan, and you can actually see what we do at the restaurant, like little snippets. I can't show you the logos or anything, but I can show you little specials, little meals, little snafus of what it kind of feels like to be at the back of the house. Back of the house is the term that we use for the kitchen. And that's how you can find me.
Well, thank you for your time today and your day off. I appreciate that. And
absolutely,
you and I will be talking again for sure. And when we find a good reason, we'll have you on again.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, bye-bye. All right, folks, that's going to do it. You can find the link to KC's podcast on the show notes page, culinarylibertarian.com/47, as well as banners for the affiliates mentioned today. And on the podcast theme, if you have been thinking of starting a podcast or starting a blog, you'll need hosting for your listeners and readers to find your show notes page or your blog posts. Use my affiliate link, culinarylibertarian.com/bluehost to get your hosting. Send me a copy of your receipt, and I'll send you some bonus electronic materials to help you get started. And KC has an offer for you podcasters who want help editing. Check out culinarylibertarian.com/KCedit or click the link on the show notes page. I know that I gave you a few links there, but just in case you're driving or cooking, all the information is at the show notes page, culinarylibertarian.com/47. Have a good week, and I'll see you soon. Music for the Culinary Libertarian podcast is provided by Matthew Bankert at mattbankert.com.